Security and stability restored to al-Qseir and its countryside after eliminating remaining terrorist groups deployed in eastern al-Buweida village. Army units seize a huge amount of weapons and ammunition in al-Qseir. And demonstrations continue in various Turkish cities protesting against Erdogan and his criminal policies. Good afternoon, this is News in English from the Syrian Arab Television in Damascus. An official source at the Foreign and Expatriates Ministry said that the Syrian government regrets the Austrian government's decision to pull out its troops operating within the United Nations Disengagement Observer Force in Golan, Onduf. The source expressed appreciation for the role that the Austrian troops played in Onduf. The source added that Syria welcomes the statement of the Russian President Vladimir Putin, in which he expressed willingness to send Russian troops to replace the Austrian ones and affirms readiness to cooperate with them. In a related context, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stressed the necessity that all international players make utmost efforts to launch the political process in Syria. In a joint press conference with Secretary General of the Organization of the Islamic Cooperation, OIC, Ikmaluddin Ihsanoglu in Moscow, Lavrov stressed that the military support for the opposition will lead to nothing and it is a dead end. Moving to our local field developments, the Syrian Arab Army restored security and stability to eastern al-Buweida village in al-Qseir countryside in Homs governorate after eliminating the last gatherings of terrorists there. An official source said that a large number of terrorists were killed while other criminal equipment were destroyed. The source added that the Syrian Arab Army is going ahead in removing the debris of destruction and the barricades set up by the terrorists, while the engineering units are dismantling the explosives planted by the terrorists on the roads. Earlier, Syrian army units restored security and stability to al-Mas'udiyya and al-Salihiyya villages in the northern countryside of Qseir. Earlier, army units seized a huge amount of weapons and ammunition in al-Qseir. The seized weapons included anti-aircraft machine guns 23mm caliber, heavy machine guns 14.5mm, PKC machine guns, thermal missiles of unknown origin, mortar shells and RPG launchers and shells, in addition to various kinds of snipers, explosive devices and other ammunition. In al-Khabiya in Damascus countryside, Syrian army units restored stability to the village after suffering from sabotage acts of the armed terrorist groups who targeted public and private properties and blocked roads, terrifying citizens. Citizens began to return to their village after eliminating the armed terrorist groups stationed there. Meanwhile, the engineering units at the Syrian Arab Army dismantled several explosives ready to be remotely detonated on Damascus-Quneitra road. The explosives were planted by the armed terrorist groups to target citizens and passers-by. In Aleppo, the Syrian Arab Army units continue its operations and restore security and stability to the villages and towns of the southern countryside of the governorate. News camera toured Sqalieh, al-Zahabi and Harabil villages, which are near the Sheikh Said area, shedding the light on the suffering that were experienced by the citizens in these villages by the criminal acts of terrorist groups affiliated to al-Qaeda. In Tunis, the Tunisian Ministry of Interior prevented 8 sheikhs from a Gulf state from entering the country in the aftermath of the criticism directed by the Tunisian opposition to the ruling al-Nahda movement, which invited many Wahhabi sheikhs to visit the country. It was the first time for the Tunisian authorities to announce such news. Earlier, some Tunisian mass media referred to the existence of a number of Tunisian associations funded by Qatar and Saudi Arabia to recruit fighters, train them and send them to Syria. In a challenge to Erdogan's call to stop the demonstrations, the Turkish protesters overran the Taksim Square on the rhythm of music and anti-government slogans. After hours of Erdogan's firm request to stop the demonstrations and Erdogan's ignoring of the protesters' demand, the demonstrations continue for the 8th day running in Taksim Square and in the two cities of Istanbul and Ankara. Erdogan repeated at the conclusion of his visit to Tunisia his rejection of the protesters' demands, stressing that the continuation of the real estate project in Taksim Square, which formed the spark that triggered demonstrations and uncovered the gap between the Turkish people and the ruling Justice and Development government. Erdogan threatened with a racist, discriminatory language that he won't allow what he called as minority to impose their conditions on the majority. That was it. More details on our website www.syriaonline.sy. Estimation for Syria's wheat production and dealings at Damascus Securities Exchange in our economic news, but after the break.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The Ministry of Agriculture stressed that the preliminary estimates of the wheat crops production exceeded 3 million tons this season. The Manager of Planning and Estimates considered this number as an achievement during the current circumstances, showing that a higher committee was formed, chaired by the Prime Minister of the Economic Affairs, in order to overcome the obstacles facing the operations in delivering wheat to the general establishment of grains, asserting that the government has taken several measures in order to facilitate delivering wheat to the centers. The Ministry of the Local Administration emphasized taking new procedures for managing the cities and the industrial areas. The manager of the cities and industrial areas showed that creating new industrial cities needs different mechanisms for investing them, noting that the non-existence of industrial cities in all the governorates contributed in the random industrial growth, which impacted both the environment and the construction. The Ministry of Work has circulated new measures with or without costs to all its affiliates, which help in reserving the energy within the different facilities, especially the lighting and rationalization systems in the electrical and household equipments, the solar water heaters and the thermal isolation of the houses. These procedures proved that the thermal isolation contributes in achieving the temperature relief of the houses in summer and winter, as it reduces 40% of the energy consumption value used in heating and cooling. The general index of Damascus Stock Exchange rose since the beginning of the year until now more than 411 points. The executive director of the market, Dr. Ma'moun Hamdan, attributed this rise to several reasons, the most important of which is the general trend of the market in keeping up since the beginning of the year and the continuation of the listed companies in gaining profits. He added that the occasional drop in the volume and the values is a correction in the course of the increase and a part of the company's profits. According to Dr. Hamdan, these features can restore the confidence in the Damascus Stock Exchange, which proved its durability. Oil ended its week up among a fluctuated deal after the jobs data of the U.S. indicated an improvement in the working market, which boosted the stocks market and the crude oil. The US and the European shares closed high after the jobs data of May showed that the economy still needs support by the US Federal Reserves. which reduces fears of ending the monetary stimulus measures before the expected time. On the other hand, the Nikkei index dropped, however, closed above main levels due to expectations that the government pension fund may boost its investment in the Japanese shares. And now over to the exchange rates according to the bulletin of the Central Bank of Syria. Ladies and gentlemen, this was our economic news for today. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.